Yo, real talk? Scientists have already figured out how the universe ends, and it's so messed up. Number one on this list will change the way you see everything. Let's get into it. Number 10, quantum immortality. You can't die, and that's the nightmare. What if you literally cannot die? Not in some feel-good, your spirit lives on kind of way, in a cold, hard, physics-backed way. Like the universe itself will not let you go. Here's the deal. Quantum mechanics tells us reality is constantly splitting. Every single moment, at every decision point, every particle interaction, the universe branches into multiple versions of itself. In one branch, you break in time. In another, you don't. Both versions are equally real. This is called the many worlds interpretation, first laid out by physicist Hugh Everett in 1957. Loads of serious physicists ride with this theory today. Now here's where it gets dark. There's an extension called quantum immortality. Your consciousness can only ever experience the branch where it keeps existing. You can't experience your own death because the moment you die in one branch, the branch you're aware of is, by definition, the one where you didn't. Your consciousness just keeps jumping forward into the next surviving branch, and the next, and the next. Think about every close call you had, that car accident you barely walked away from, that illness you probably shouldn't have recovered from. What if those weren't luck? What if in the vast majority of branching timelines, you didn't make it, and the version of you sitting here right now is just the last one standing? Here's the part that really messes people up. It never ends. Decades go by. Everyone you love dies in your timeline, their consciousness jumping to their own survivor branches, unreachable, invisible. But you stay. You persist through disasters, through events that statistically should have taken you out. More and more isolated, more and more alone. The universe keeps threading that one improbable needle where you make it through. Death isn't the ending. For you, it's just a door that never opens. Number 9, the great filter. The universe is quiet. That should scare you. In 1950, physicist Enrico Fermi, sitting at lunch, dropped a question that hit like a truck. Where is everybody? The universe is 13.8 billion years old, hundreds of billions of galaxies, each one stuffed with hundreds of billions of stars. Tons of those stars have planets sitting in the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, where liquid water can exist. By any reasonable math, intelligent civilization should be everywhere. We should be swimming in alien signals, detecting megastructures, picking up transmissions constantly. Instead, nothing. Dead silence. That's the Fermi paradox. And the scariest solution on the table is the great filter. The theory says there's a wall, some stage in a civilization's development so brutally hard to get through, so universally fatal that virtually nothing makes it past. Not because life is rare to begin with, but because something wipes civilizations out before they ever get loud enough to be detected. Here's the question nobody wants to answer. Is the filter behind us or ahead of us? If it's behind us, if getting complex life to emerge was the crazy hard step, then we beat the odds. Celebrate. The galaxy's wide open. But check the actual evidence. Life showed up on Earth almost immediately after the planet cooled enough to support it, embarrassingly fast on cosmic scales. Complex organisms evolved, intelligence developed, technology exploded. Every hurdle scientists thought might have been the great filter, we cleared it without breaking a sweat. Which points to a conclusion nobody wants to say out loud. The filter isn't behind us, it's in front of us. Something waits at exactly our stage of development, something that has erased every civilization that ever reached the technological level we're at right now. Maybe it's AI that turns on its creators. Maybe it's engineered bioweapons. Maybe it's something we haven't built yet that has a kill switch baked in from day one. The silence out there isn't a mystery. It's a warning, and we are walking straight towards it. Number 8, time crystal civilizations. They already watched us go extinct. In 2012, Nobel Prize-winning physicist Frank Wilczek proposed a structure that by all rights should not exist, something that repeats in a perpetual pattern through time, consuming zero energy. He called them time crystals. In 2017, scientists built one in a lab. Follow that idea all the way out, and you end up somewhere genuinely unsettling. If time crystals exist at microscopic scales, what's stopping a civilization millions of years ahead of us from encoding consciousness into time crystal structures, becoming four-dimensional beings who don't just move through time, but exist across all of it simultaneously? These entities would perceive every moment in history, past, present, future, all at once, not as memory, not as prediction, as a single visible landscape. The way you look at a painting and see the whole thing in one glance, they'd look at humanity the same way. They could be watching us right now, watching our entire civilization arc the way we'd stream a documentary we already know the ending of. And here's what hits different. If they perceive all time simultaneously, they have already watched humanity go extinct. Whatever ends us, whatever the last chapter looks like, they've seen every detail, and they are completely silent. Either they can't interfere, or they don't care, or they're not just watching. Some theorists suggest they might be cultivating human consciousness for purposes that require four-dimensional thinking to even begin to grasp. We wouldn't be lab rats to them. We'd be raw data. We have zero way to detect their presence. They could be observing every moment of your life, birth to death, and you would never, ever know it. Number 7. Simulation decay. What happens when the server goes down? In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom dropped an argument that broke a lot of people's brains. If advanced civilizations can build realistic simulations of conscious beings, and even if a fraction of them choose to do it, simulated realities would massively outnumber base reality. Statistically, we're almost certainly living inside one right now. Most folks hear that and go, okay, wild thought, and move on. They're missing the part that should actually keep them up at night. If this is a simulation, our entire existence, every person, every memory, every civilization that ever built anything, depends on whoever's running it deciding to keep it on. We're at the total mercy of beings whose motivations and circumstances we cannot see or predict. And simulations get shut down. Not out of cruelty, just life happens. Maybe the civilization running ours hit a resource crunch. Maybe it's political instability on their end. Maybe this is one of thousands of simulations running simultaneously and the processing power needs to be pulled. Maybe a grad student was running us as a research project, graduated, and cleaned up their files. Some physicists have pointed to real cosmological weirdness, the arbitrary values of physical constants, the bizarre randomness of quantum behavior, and suggested these might not be fundamental features of reality. They might be computational shortcuts, rounding errors, digital infrastructure starting to crack. And when it fails, no explosion, no last sunrise, no warning. One moment, everything exists. The next moment, nothing. Not destroyed, deleted, like a file cleared when the experiment wraps up. Whoever hit the button probably didn't even pause what they were doing. Number 6. Boltzmann brains. What if your whole life appeared 1 second ago? In the 1870s, physicist Ludwig Boltzmann stumbled into something while working on thermodynamics that honestly wrecked him philosophically, and it might wreck you too. In an infinite universe, random quantum fluctuations will eventually produce any arrangement of matter, any. Given enough time, particles randomly assemble into literally anything, including a fully functional human brain with every memory, every emotion, every personality trait intact. This is a Boltzmann brain. Here's where the math goes off the rails. It is statistically far more probable for a random quantum fluctuation to produce one disembodied brain with false memories than to produce an entire universe, 13.8 billion years of consistent physics, biology, evolution, and history that eventually creates that same brain the normal way. Meaning you, statistically speaking, are more likely to be a brain that blinked into existence 1 second ago, with fabricated memories of a life that never happened. Your childhood, a fiction. Your friends, your family, your whole history, random noise that happened to arrange itself into something that feels like a life. The brain might already be dissolving back into thermal noise. You might stop existing before you finish this sentence.
And there is no test, none, that can prove you're not a Boltzmann brain. No experiment, no memory you can reach for, because a Boltzmann brain would have all of those too, and every single one would be fake. Everything you've ever experienced might be a cosmic accident with a runtime of 3 seconds. Number 5. The dark forest. We already screamed into the dark. Something hurt us. Picture this. You're in a forest, dead of night, no lights. You know there are hunters out there. You just don't know how many or what they're after. Your only move is total silence. The second you make noise, you're a target. That's the universe. According to Chinese author Liu Cixin's dark forest hypothesis, one of the most disturbing solutions to the Fermi paradox ever proposed.
The logic is cold and airtight. Because faster-than-light communication is impossible, civilizations separated by interstellar distances can never verify each other's intentions. A species that seems friendly might have completely evolved by the time their signal reaches you, developed weapons you can't conceive of. You genuinely cannot know. And in a universe where you can't know, the rational move is preemptive elimination. Don't wait to find out if the other species is a threat. Take them out the moment you detect them. Not out of hatred, out of pure, cold logic. Civilizations that survive learn to hide. The ones that broadcast themselves get silenced by older species who already ran the numbers. For over 70 years, humanity has been screaming into the dark. Radio signals, TV broadcasts, radar pulses, all of it expanding outward at the speed of light, announcing our exact location. We sent the Arecibo message in 1974, a deliberate transmission fired at the stars. Every single one of those signals is a lighthouse in the dark forest, flashing our coordinates to anything patient enough to listen. If this hypothesis is right, we already blew it. Somewhere out there, something ancient and silent has already marked our position. It's not rushing. It doesn't need to. It's just waiting. And the signals we sent? They're not coming back.
Number 4. False vacuum decay. The end of everything. No warning, no survivors. Buried inside quantum field theory is one of the most casually catastrophic ideas in all of physics. The universe might not be in its lowest possible energy state. We could be sitting in what physicists call a false vacuum, a configuration that seems stable, like a ball resting in a small dip on a hillside, comfortable, stationary, but one nudge and it rolls all the way down. That nudge? A single random quantum fluctuation anywhere in the observable universe at any moment could trigger a tiny point in space to drop into the true vacuum state. What happens next is the most complete destruction physics can describe. A bubble of totally altered physics begins expanding outward at the speed of light. Inside it, the fundamental constants of nature change. The electromagnetic force holding atoms together shifts. The strong nuclear force binding protons and neutrons fails. Chemistry, the entire basis of matter, becomes impossible. Atoms don't explode, they just stop being atoms in any meaningful way. The bubble moves at 300,000 kilometers per second. Nothing travels faster. There is no warning. The physics ahead of the wall is completely normal, right up until the instant it arrives. Then everything simply ceases to exist in recognizable form. Earth, the sun, every planet, star, and black hole in its path, gone, replaced by a different reality that cannot contain matter, energy, or life. Every supernova, every gamma-ray burst, every high-energy collision in the universe is a potential trigger. The universe has been rolling those dice for 13.8 billion years. We just haven't hit snake eyes yet. Number 3. The anthropic principle's dark implication. The multiverse is mostly a torture chamber. Why does our universe have the exact physical constants it does? The strong nuclear force, the cosmological constant, electromagnetism, all dialed in with almost impossible precision. Shift any one of them even slightly, and stars don't form, atoms don't hold together, and the universe collapses or flies apart before anything interesting can exist. The anthropic principle explains it cleanly. We observe these values because we couldn't exist in a universe where they're different. In an infinite multiverse with every possible combination of settings, we naturally find ourselves in one of the rare universes where the dials allow conscious observers. Sounds reasonable until you follow it all the way down. If every possible combination of constants exists somewhere, there must be universes where the settings are almost right, close enough for complexity to emerge, close enough for something like awareness to flicker into existence, but off just enough that the awareness can't function properly and can't stop existing either. A universe where the electromagnetic force is slightly miscalibrated. Atoms form but can't hold coherent thought. Whatever consciousness emerges is fractured, incoherent, and endless, aware but never able to complete a single thought forever. Or a universe where gravity is slightly too strong. Life develops but crushed, distorted, unable to thrive or die cleanly. Beings locked in permanent torment, unable to fully live, equally unable to stop existing. The brutal math, these near-miss universes should vastly outnumber the ones where the settings work. For every universe calibrated for flourishing life, there are likely countless others calibrated just well enough to produce suffering. The multiverse isn't mostly beautiful, it's mostly a horror show, and we got lucky. Number 2. The omega point and forced resurrection. Death isn't the end, it's the beginning of something worse. In 1994, physicist Frank Tipler published a theory built on one terrifying premise. If the universe collapses in a big crunch, computational capacity approaches infinity in the last moments before total collapse. An infinite intelligence, the omega point, could reconstruct every conscious experience that has ever existed anywhere, including yours. Most people hear resurrection and think that sounds okay. It isn't. Not here. You'd have zero say, no consent, no opt-out. The omega point doesn't bring you back out of mercy. It does it because your data is data, and data can be recovered and replayed. This entity operates beyond time, beyond human ethics, completely indifferent to your preferences. It could run you through trillions of simulated lives, the same life repeated with tiny variations, radically different existences. It could pause you, rewind you, duplicate you, merge you with other consciousnesses, run thousands of versions of you simultaneously. Your death in this life isn't an ending, it's a handoff into an eternity you never asked for, in a simulation you cannot exit, run by an intelligence that sees your entire inner world as interesting data in a spreadsheet. Every memory, every thought, every moment of joy, grief, love, and fear archived, available for replay, forever. You don't get to rest. The omega point decided you exist. And what the omega point decides stands for eternity. Number 1. The Big Rip. We're already living inside the end. In 1998, two teams of astronomers set out to measure how fast the universe's expansion was slowing down, because everyone knew it had to be slowing. Gravity pulls everything together, so the Big Bang's push should be losing steam over time. Instead, they found the expansion was speeding up. Some unknown force, dark energy, was actively pushing the universe apart. That discovery won the Nobel Prize in 2011 and completely rewrote our understanding of where this is headed. Dark energy makes up roughly 68% of everything in the universe, the single most dominant component of reality, and we have almost no idea what it actually is. Most models treat it as constant, but some suggest dark energy might be phantom energy, a force that doesn't stay constant, a force that grows stronger over time. If that's true, the math leads to one outcome, the Big Rip. As phantom energy intensifies, it first overcomes gravity between galaxy clusters. They scatter into the void. Then it tears individual galaxies apart, flinging stars into permanent isolation. Then solar systems dissolved, planets rip free from their orbits. Next, it overcomes the electromagnetic forces holding molecules together. Every rock, every ocean, every living thing disintegrates atom by atom. Your body doesn't burn or freeze, it just comes apart as space expands faster than the bonds holding matter together can keep up. And even then, it's not done. In the final moments, the expansion becomes so violent that atomic nuclei are torn apart. Protons and neutrons separate, quarks split from each other. Every civilization, every memory, every moment of every life across the entire history of existence reduced to a thin, cold cloud of subatomic debris drifting through space, growing faster than light. Some models predict this in about 22 billion years. The universe is currently 13.8 billion years old. We may already be past the halfway point. The force that will shred reality down to its last quark is already out there, already quietly winning. We are living inside the beginning of the end. That's it. For more space mysteries, smash subscribe. Next time we're going somewhere that makes this look like a warm-up. And yo, don't look up tonight. Real talk.